For all things ATL. For everything Falcons.
First to the end zone, touchdown!
This is Peachtree Football. Now, your host, Dylan Mathews and Beau Morgan.
What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Dylan Mathews alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Beau Morgan, and we are Peachtree Football. Make sure you like this podcast, download the podcast, subscribe to Peachtree Football. We are wherever you get your podcast. That is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Audacy App, wherever you get your podcast. Peachtree Football is there. Beau Morgan, it is officially official. The Atlanta Falcons, everybody is at training camp. All the Falcons have reported. Veterans, the rookies were there since last week, but everybody is there now, and it is getting really real. First comes training camp, then comes the preseason, and then the regular season. So we are in that final heat, that dead sprint to the regular season, and we are that much closer to some Atlanta Falcons football. Beau Morgan, first things first, Beau. How you feeling today, SquidBilly?
I'm good. I'm tired. I'm good. The players reported today.
We're here.
So, all the veterans reported today, and so we're literally. I was just thinking about this. I think I've talked about this before, that, my camp routine is different. I go stay with a college buddy of mine, and I'm going up there tomorrow after the show. And it's kind of surreal every year. At the same time, I'm like, oh man, I can't believe training camp started. Every once in a while it coincides with Shark Week, which I'm trying to catch up on. It's the busiest month of the year for me, man. As much as football season is busy when you're in games, this training camp schedule, along with the preseason and getting ready for the games and all that, just makes for the busiest time of the year. But Dylan, I'd be remiss if I didn't address the elephant in the room, and that's you rocking. I don't know if James. I'm gonna put James on the spot. James, if you can find a picture of Falcons fullback Keith Smith.
Oh, you're going.
That would be very.
That's a good pull.
Very nice, because Dylon.
That's a good pull.
As we affectionately refer to him on this show and other shows at 92.9 The Game, Dylan, we refer to him as Dylon. He's rocking the Keith Smith hairdo, fresh for training camp.
Facts. And actually, it's funny that you say fresh for training camp, because that was part of the reason that it happened when it happened. I did want to be fresh for training camp, because not only I'm going to go out there for some practices, but I'm also hosting a show. I believe it's going to be Chris Goforth and I on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll be hosting a show out there. So, I had to look fresh for the people. And honestly, my hair was just kind of getting a little crazy and all over the place. So I had to do something either way it goes. But decided to go with the cornrows, just something new. Never had any type of braids before. And I just wanted to try it out and see how it looks. So, I had to get fresh for the one time. I was looking a little bit scrappy and scruffy. So we had to do what we had to do, Beau. So, but I'm glad I've gotten such a warm reception from everybody. So that's the main thing right there.
Now, you are in a very committed relationship.
Yes.
And I have to ask how that went over when you walked in that door.
I think it went over, pretty well. She was not the reason I got them, because she actually has been in my ear trying to get me to like try it, or at least asking me like, hey, would you ever, try this? Would you ever do this? And I've always been like, nah. Like, I don't think I will look right. I don't think I have the right head shape for it. And like, this has been a conversation for probably like at least a year or so. But Beau, to be honest with you, I was riding around on Friday after the show, running some errands, getting some things done. And you know what? I was just thinking to myself, you know how it is when you're in the car alone and you just get to thinking and your mind gets to wandering. And I was like, you know what? what the heck? I'm going to try. I'm going to see how it looks. The idea kept growing on me and growing on me and growing on me over time. So we just decided to try. But no, to answer your question, Simone likes the new do as well. So I've got no negative reviews so far. So that is good. I'm happy about that. But I mean, we got to talk about your do too. Usually SquidBilly has the hat on. He does it today. He's rocking the hair, showing you that he's got the hair flowing and going, and he's got a fresh haircut too. Because you say you got a wedding this Saturday.
Hold on, I don't have a lot to flow. I've had the haircut for a week actually. I had to be a part of an event today after the show. This afternoon, I should say, and I probably could have gotten away with my Red Eagle branch hat or my red bobber hat or whatever I would wear, but I was just trying to show that I am. Some of I'm the morning 1/3 of the morning shift on 92.9 The Game. I'm also assistant brand manager for 92.9 The Game, and along with the executive producer for Falcons Radio Network and the half of this podcast. So.
And a TMZ contributor.
Yeah. So I was just trying to look somewhat professional. And so I just have not put a hat on, and, I'm just going to roll with it. But yeah, look, here we are. So enough about us, right? Enough about us. And I'm just rocking the same haircut SquidBilly's had for a while. And you're rocking the Keith Smith. And I say that because I've been looking at you and I'm like, man, Dylan reminds me of somebody with the new do, and I just couldn't pinpoint it. And Keith Smith popped in my head as we started a Falcons podcast. Made me laugh. So.
And just the absolute last.
There he is. Look,
there's Keith Smith. There it is.
He's got a little bit more going down.
He's got the hang time. I don't got the hang time. Like I don't got that much in the back. Like, I don't know how much you can see it, but I ain't got that much in the back.
No, you don't. But it's the
front. It's the
front. That's what it is.
Start back here with the hairline. Yeah, it's the front.
I do like it though, Dylan. I said this. We talked about this, James. We talked about this. Yeah, take your glasses off, Dylan, and smile. Say, hey, there he is. See that?
We're twinning right now. We're twinning.
I said this on the show yesterday on the morning shift when you debuted it, because for you guys out there, and again, we're going to get to Falcons here and really quick. But Dylan wore it was almost like a shower cap was what it looked like to me.
It was a wave cap and a bonnet.
Yeah. And I was like, why? And I didn't even realize it, because Dylan will walk in and he'll say, hey man, and I'll be like, what's up? What's up, Dial-On? But I never look up out of my desk because I'm reading, or I just don't want to talk to people at 5:15 in the morning.
That's right.
And it probably gets to like 5:45. I'm like, Dylan, what the hell is on your head? He's like, oh, you're about to find out in a minute. And so anyway, it was a cool reveal. I give him a lot of credit. I give you a lot of credit when you did that. But anyways, Dylan, I think we have Falcons news, don't we?
We sure do. We actually got a good bit of Falcons news to get to. So first things first, SquidBilly. The Falcons started training camp today, and they have sent out a media release, press release, with a couple of bits of news. Number one, the Falcons have re-signed tight end Michael Pruitt. And Mike, this is actually a really good move for the Atlanta Falcons, in my opinion. We know they traded for Jonnu Smith this offseason. Obviously, we know they have Kyle Pitts, but Michael Pruitt was a guy that really came on strong. Really, he was pretty solid, honestly, throughout the entirety of the year. Now I think about it, I don't think even say coming on strong does him justice, because he was really solid throughout the season and started catching some touchdowns towards the end of the year as well. I think he finished the year with 3 or 4 touchdowns. I don't have it right in front of me, but he was 4 touchdowns. Yes. Thank you, Beau. And he was a guy that ended up being a red zone threat for the Falcons, and ended up being a very good red zone threat for the Falcons. So this is a very good signing. And look, you can never have one too many pass catchers. He's also a very good blocker. I don't want to take that away from him as well. So just another versatile tight end, another pass catcher, another weapon for Desmond Ridder, and another guy who can help block in the running game. So just an overall very versatile, very good weapon for the Atlanta Falcons when you talk about on the offense, Beau.
Yeah, and he's a familiar face for Desmond. So Desmond got to play with him last year. So now you look at I think Parker Hesse is still on this team. I'd have to double check, but you have, and
Believe
Parker
you.
Hesse's a guy that kind of played a hybrid role for this team. But you go to that and you have Michael Pruitt, Jonnu Smith, and Kyle Pitts. I think this is a situation where Michael Pruitt still has some work to do. And I mean that not in a negative way, but he's going to have to kind of make this team. And
Yeah,
because
you're
right
right.
now it's Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith, Michael Pruitt, and Parker Hesse, and these are, are you going to carry 4 tight ends? I wouldn't think so.
Seems like a lot.
Could you move now? Parker Hesse could be a guy that starts on the practice squad. Maybe Keith Smith's job's in jeopardy. But I will say this.
Mhm.
For the sake of you, Dylan, I would think your doppelganger should stay. Keith Smith, you got the best out of him.
Yeah.
Under Arthur Smith. And because I didn't think he played his best ball before, because he was here a year or two before. And it wasn't a guy I was overly high on, but I thought he did a really good job the last few years. So I'm excited to see him come back, and I'm seeing Michael Pruitt, and I think that you can find a role for Parker Hesse if you need, or have on the practice squad and a guy that maybe bounces around. But it's just depth. Look, it's depth.
Yeah.
And those guys are going to be going for that third tight end spot. I think you will carry 3 tight ends easily. So you're going to have the guys that are battling for it. So it's going to be interesting to see. Maybe you don't. Maybe you roll in with 4 tight ends and you carry 3 backs to start the year, and then you have a fullback, and you have Hesse who can do both. That would make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
But when you do that, these guys got to play special teams as well. And I know Keith Smith can do that. I know Parker Hesse can do that, and I know Michael Pruitt can do that. So,
man, I'm already imagining a super duper jumbo package that has my twin Keith Smith at fullback, Jonnu Smith and Michael Pruitt at twin tight ends, and Kyle Pitts at lining up outside a receiver. I'm already imagining Arthur Smith doing something crazy good with that. So I already have that thought in my head. So I wonder if we'll get to see that at all this season. But no, to your point, depth is always good. It's always good to have quality guys behind, obviously like Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith. So we'll see what kind of role Michael Pruitt ends up having. But again, it's never, ever a bad thing to have guys like Michael Pruitt on your team who can do a little bit of everything. Again, so I think this is a really good signing for the Falcons, and I'm glad Michael Pruitt is back on the squad. All right, moving over to our second bit of news, and that is on running back Caleb Huntley. He was waived, the running back was, after failing a physical today after reporting to training camp. Now, we know Caleb Huntley was coming off the torn Achilles. And but honestly, did they not expect him to fail his physical with the torn Achilles, or is it a different type of physical? There must be a disconnect here, because I'm wondering, like, did they not expect this because he's coming off a torn Achilles?
No. I mean, they put him on the PUP list to begin with, but
right.
There was it had to have been
something new that maybe came about.
Something new that popped up that would have failed the physical. Whether look, I'm never gonna try to know every single thing, and I'll probably ask our cohort and special guest at times on this podcast, Mike Johnson, tomorrow, exactly what he would think that did this. But it could have been something where he came in overweight.
Right.
It could have been something else that is a part of to make sure that they're eligible to go on the PUP. I don't think it has to do with his Achilles, because I do believe, I don't think that's the issue for me is with this, is when you waive a guy to a failed physical, there's something that he didn't do, because if not, it would be an injury settlement.
Correct.
So I had to get more details on this, but I don't think it has to do with the Achilles, because he wasn't going to be back anyways. You have to remember, I think he tore his Achilles in December.
Yeah, it was late. It was late in the season.
So that's a year injury anyway. So there's something else that did that, and I could see him possibly making a return to this, at least on the practice squad in some way, shape, or form later. So I want to see more on this before I get out over my skis. I just don't 100% know.
Yeah, don't want to speculate too much on what's going on there, even maybe what the plan is. Like you said, it doesn't mean that he can't come back, and the Falcons can't pick him back up. So we'll see. But this is a situation where time will most definitely tell. So Caleb Huntley has been waived, though, by the Atlanta Falcons for now due to a failed physical. And lastly, when it comes to the latest news out of Atlanta Falcons training camp, Calais Campbell has been placed on he's been designated to the non-football injury list. Beau, you were telling me before we got started here, this could be a number of things, all from a stomach ache to maybe even this is an example. I'm not speculating. I don't know what exactly is going on, but maybe it could be a personal issue. I mean, there's no telling what could be happening with Calais, but nothing really here to be concerned about. This is basically he basically has permission to not be at training camp right now to take care of something.
Yeah, I mean the non-football injury list is what I saw.
Yeah.
Which means it was an injury that was occurred not through the ways of football. So
yeah.
I also saw that it was considered not serious and should be back soon.
So
I almost said something that James would have said. Yeah, I wish you wouldn't have said that word. But I mean, it could be like a hangnail or something. I don't know.
Those be real sometimes.
Yeah, it could be something silly. I mean, you never know. So it doesn't seem serious. I'm not sweating it. And you do these moves, so you at this part of camp, you want to have 90 guys on that roster.
Correct.
You want to be able to get reps on reps on reps and have plenty of guys to do it, not to wear other guys out. And you never know what you're going to see from people. You might catch lightning in a bottle on something. So it's not a big deal to me. It's July. If this was Friday, I don't want to say this and put this. If a player that we're talking about today had been on the field and something would have occurred and a move would have been made like this,
right?
I
Then
would be worried.
Concerned. Right?
I'd be worried. This not so much, especially a guy who's going to roll, a guy who's literally going to be counting the clock once he retires for his 5 years to go into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
No concern at all.
No. So Calais is going to be fine. He'll be back, and he won't. We don't expect Calais to miss any significant amount of time for the Falcons. So he'll be back with the guys out in Flower Branch sooner rather than later for sure. Okay, Beau. For the second half of this edition of Peachtree Football Game, make sure you download the podcast, subscribe to Peachtree Football, wherever you get your podcasts, Audacy App, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that jazz. I want to go over and have a little bit of fun. We've gone through all the position battles. Training camp gets started today, so I want to have a little fun when we talk about what could be to come in the regular season. So I've been looking at some numbers, and these are all via the sports book on FanDuel. So the FanDuel Sportsbook, I've been looking at some over-under numbers, Beau Morgan, and we're going to start with, obviously, the big one that everybody starts with, win totals. So right now, the number is set at 8.5 for the Falcons line when it comes to number of wins. Right now, the over, if you play the over, it's a minus 122, and the under for 8.5 wins is a plus 100 when it comes to betting odds as well. But we'll stick to the number at 8.5. Over or under 8.5 wins for the Atlanta Falcons, Beau? How you feeling? I think I know your answer.
What do you think my answer is?
I think your answer is undoubtedly over for the Atlanta Falcons when it comes to 8.5 wins. Look, to me, you're under 8.5 wins. You're under. To me, you under 10 wins is a little bit of a disappointment to me.
Yeah, I'm taking the over.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, over.
All right.
Next question.
Yeah, I'll give you a push here, and I'm with you too. Again, like I said, with the talent this team has stacked up, with again the depth you're adding and guys like Michael Pruitt, even now, this team should have more than 8.5 wins. So we both say over on that. Okay, let's next go to the passing game and Desmond Ridder. Over, under. Actually, this one just popped up, so let's do this one first. And I like this number 2. Regular season total passing touchdowns, just passing touchdowns, over, under 14.5. The line, if you are wondering, actually it's minus 112 for both right now, obviously because the season hasn't gotten started. So how you feeling about the over, under 14.5 passing touchdowns during the regular season for Desmond Ridder?
Well, he had 4 in 4 games last year, right?
I believe so. It was either 2 or it was 4. I'll double check.
Oh, it might have been 2. It might have been 2.
I think it was 2.
You know
I'll double
what?
check that for you now.
It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Over.
Yeah,
I think he has. I think he has at least 20. I'd set the number at 20.
I love that number 20. I think that is a sweet spot number. Look, especially if this team just stays relatively healthy. Look, they're knock on my hardwood floor right now, but there are going to be instances where guys get a little bit banged up, guys going to miss time here and there. But if this team stays relatively healthy, I mean, Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, we've gone through it all. I mean, he has weapons on weapons on weapons, and this is going to be a team that is not going to be afraid to take deep shots for one, and also 2, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot in the red zone as well with the big weapons that they have. And Bijan too, they're all going to be red zone threats.
I just don't think this offense is going to look like the offense last year. I think it's going to have similarities, but the last year they threw 17 touchdown passes, 15 from Mariota, 2 from him. Over 14.
Big over. All right, now let's get to passing yards, if I can find it. Here we go. Desmond Ridder, total passing yards, over under 2,000.
Over
525.5. That seems criminally low, Beau. I mean, to even be in the 2,000s, that seems so low.
Well, unless you're planning on him getting hurt or benched, I would say that they threw for just under 3,000 combined last year.
Yeah, and again, that's a team where they were predicated on the run, and like you said, this offense should be a lot different, and they should be passing the ball a lot more. And for them to get 3,000 just last year, being a heavy run team, I mean, this just seems criminally low. And I get it, all these talking pundits and these sports books and whatnot, they don't know anything about Desmond Ridder, so they're going low on him. But I mean, my goodness, just to give, I mean, let's look at the Jared Goff, who we know that team last year in Detroit was a heavy run team as well. I mean, they set the over-under on him for Jared Goff. This isn't the Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. They set the over-under on him at 3,850, so almost 4,000. So, I mean, goodness.
Well, in fairness, he's a guy that, whether it was with the Rams or not, he's a guy that has done it before.
That's true.
He's put up the stats before, and I'm not a huge Jared Goff fan. I don't.
Yeah.
I thought it was nice to see him kind of find his way late last year. But he's a guy that has done it in the past. And by the way, he had 4,400 yards passing last year. So I understand that a little bit. And I understand a little bit of why the doubt for Desmond. I just think that I think that number is based more off what they did last year with a emphasis on the run game, and not what they have done in the offseason, adding to the weapons in the passing game and to what Desmond Ridder could be. So I think that number is a little bit tunnel visioned.
Yes, that is the perfect phrase for it. Definitely tunnel vision for sure. Okay, couple more for you here, Beau. Bijan Robinson. Let's move over to the running game. Bijan Robinson, total rushing yards, over under 1,075.5. Now this one is interesting because you got Tyler Algier. I mean, Bijan's going to run the ball. He's going to have his fair share of running the ball. Don't get us wrong, but he's also going to be out involved in the passing game a lot too. Going to catch passes out of the backfield. Going to be lined up at the slot at times. So this one's interesting.
I'm actually going to go under.
Okay, I'm mad at that.
I expect him to have around 1,500 to 1,800 yards all purpose.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how heavy they're going to run him, and from a rushing standpoint. And remember, Tyler Algier didn't even have that many yards rushing last year. I know he got kind of a late start to it, but he still had over 200 carries.
Yeah.
I just don't think that. I would be surprised, honestly, if any running back for this team went over 1,000 yards on the ground.
Right.
But I would definitely set that number. I think it's very possible that he could have, a 700, 500, or an 800, 800, something like that. 800, 700 season, something like that. I think he could have a lot of yards through the air. I could be way off on that. I could be way off. But I just think that he's going to be used in so many different ways that his all-purpose number would be a bigger number than anything else for him.
1,000% with you.
Well, obviously his all-purpose would be bigger, but I just mean if I'm going to do an over-under number for him, it would be based on the all-purpose and not the rushing.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Because again, look, Cordell Patterson, he's not going to carry the ball a lot, but there still are going to be times where Cordell Patterson gets some carries. Tyler Algier is going to get a lot of the line share as well, and Bijan is going to get used in the passing game a lot. So I feel like the top end for him as far as just rushing yards is, I think the top end is 900. I think you gave the sweet spot somewhere between 700, 850, and I think the top end for him is 900. So I'm with you. I don't think he gets 1,000 yards. Now, look, we could, like you said, could be way wrong, but I don't see it as of right now. Okay, let's move over to receiving to close things out here, and let's focus on our guy, Drake London. All right, regular season total receiving yards. We'll do receiving yards, and then we'll do receiving touchdowns for Drake London, and then we'll wrap things up. So over under, this is regular season total receiving yards, 800.5 for Drake London.
Over. Got 866 last year. I think he missed a game or two, and had really didn't get a connection with the quarterback until Desmond took over. So I'm going to go over. I also think it's going to be harder just to pay only attention to Drake with Kyle and Jonnu and Bijan and Cordero and Mac Hollins. So I would go over.
Definitely going over. And look, we saw it last year. I mean, there was a difference, and there was a big difference between when Marcus Mariota was at quarterback and when Desmond Ridder was at quarterback. When Desmond Ridder got out there, you could see and you could feel the chemistry between Drake London and Desmond Ridder. They have a very, very good rapport. And it started off just last year. I mean, they came in together as rookies, and they've been working together. They've been really side by side since both of them came into the league last year. So I definitely think that's going to be over, because honestly, I think Drake London ends up being Desmond Ridder's favorite target throughout the season. So I'm definitely going over. All right, last one here before we wrap up. Receiving touchdowns for Drake London. Over, under 4.5, Beau.
Man, that's tough.
That is tough.
He had 4 last year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to keep going over because I feel like I'm almost just getting stuck in a rut, but I think that number is pretty good.
Yeah, it's going to be right there at 4 or 5.
I think it's 5. I think I'm going to go over with 5, but I think Kyle's going to get 6, somewhere in that range. I think Mac. I think the ball is going to be distributed in that red zone. There's so much size and strength in that red zone. That's a tough one for me, but I think that's a really, really good number, to be honest with you.
That is. I think they hit the nail right on the head with that number. I'm with you. I'm gonna have to back you on that one. I'm gonna go 5 as well. That feels like the right number. It could be 6. But I'm gonna guess over, and I'm gonna say he gets 5 or 6 this year. Just because I think he is going to be the go-to guy for Desmond Ridder. So those are some over under numbers for you. If you want to take a look at all of them, there's a bunch on the FanDuel Sportsbook, so you can go check those out. And look, maybe we didn't get into all of them, so maybe we'll get into it some again here before the season gets going. We'll see. But that is going to do it for this edition of Peachtree Football. Make sure you guys like this podcast, download the podcast, subscribe to Peachtree Football. We are wherever you get your podcast. That is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Audacy app, wherever you get your podcast. Peachtree Football is there. Training camp is underway, y'all. And next time we talk to y'all, we'll have plenty of training camp news, storylines, and headlines to get into when it comes to Atlanta Falcons training camp. So stay locked in with Peachtree Football, the only place to get the best Atlanta Falcons coverage, period. For Beau Morgan, I am Dylan Mathews. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And again, like this podcast, download the pod, subscribe to Peachtree Football wherever you get your podcast. Till we talk to you guys next week. Peace.